If you have begun the journey of food preservation, you may have come across many different ways to take the moisture out of foods to preserve them longer term. There are many techniques, and choosing the right methods are important. The right preservation methods not only extend the shelf life, but also help retain the food's flavors and nutritional value. If you are considering adding a dehydrator or a freeze dryer to your homestead, it is essential to understand the differences between the two methods. Both dehydrating and freeze drying offer unique benefits, and knowing how they work will help you make an informed decision before making a purchase. I own and use both and find advantages and disadvantages with both. Let's concentrate on dehydrating. Dehydrators come in two different forms. One of those forms is usually round, has trays that fit on top of each other, and has a fan that blows up from the bottom. The other form is usually square, has trays that pull out, and has a fan that blows from the back. Either works, but I do have to say the square ones that have a fan blowing from the back are my favorites. These dry each tray evenly, whereas the round ones will dry the first tray on the bottom the quickest. I have used both, but much prefer the square with the pull-out trays. Moisture in foods make bacteria and mold grow, which in turn makes the food spoil. When dehydrating, 70 to 90% of the moisture from the food is removed. Because not all the moisture is taken out, you can expect about a 1-year shelf life of dehydrated foods. The temperature plays a big role. Anything dehydrated with heat above 110 degrees Fahrenheit will lose all nutritional value. If you dehydrate herbs at or above this temperature, all medicinal benefits are lost. The water activity factor, also known as AW, is a crucial concept in the science of dehydration. Water activity refers to the availability of water molecules in a food product and is measured on a scale of 0 to 1. Microorganisms require a minimal water activity level to grow and reproduce, typically around 0.85 or higher. By dehydrating foods to a point where their water activity falls below the critical level, which is usually around 0.6 or lower, the growth of microorganisms is inhibited, making the food stable and safe for long-term storage. Not all foods are equally suitable for dehydration, as some contain high water content or delicate structures that may not withstand the drying process. Understanding the moisture content of different foods helps determine the appropriate drying times and methods. Fruits and vegetables usually require a longer drying time because they are considered high water foods. Lean meats and herbs dehydrate faster. Additionally, some foods, such as a high sugar item like jams or jellies, hold tightly onto water molecules, making them nearly impossible to dehydrate. It is essential to select foods that dehydrate well to achieve the best results. Fats, oils, and any high-fat food are not good foods to dehydrate. They are generally very low in water content, even though they can feel and look moist. This causes these foods to resist dehydration. Shelf storage of any high-fat food makes it susceptible to going rancid. Foods need to be sliced before going into the dehydrator. The thickness of the food slices influences the dehydration process. Uniform slicing ensures even drying and prevents some parts from over-drying while others remain under-dried. Thicker slices may require longer drying times, while thin slices dry more quickly. Each type of food and each batch of food has different drying times that can range from a few hours to several days. It is essential to monitor the drying process and test for dryness before storing the foods. Foods should feel dry to the touch with no signs of moisture. Fruit should be leathery when fully dried. Vegetables should be crisp. Alright, so now that we have covered everything about dehydrating foods, let's move on to freeze drying. Freeze drying is also known as lyophilization. It is a way to preserve food that involves freezing the food at extremely low temperatures. These temperatures can get down to around negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. After freezing, it then removes the ice crystals through a vacuum pump. The process results in the transformation of ice directly into vapor without passing through the liquid phase, which preserves the food's cellular structure and nutrients. This process removes 99% of the moisture from foods, leaving it with remarkably high nutrient density and extending the shelf life to 25 to 30 years. Freeze-dried foods provide a valuable resource for emergency preparedness, backpacking, adventures, and ensuring a well-stocked pantry throughout the year. Popular foods to freeze-dry include fruits like berries, apples, bananas, pineapples, and watermelon. Vegetables like peas, corn, bell peppers, and carrots. Meats like chicken, beef, pork, and seafood. Meals such as casseroles, stews, soups, and leftovers. Dairy like cheese, yogurt, and milk. And herbs such as basil, parsley, mint, garlic, plantain, and echinacea. Of course, uniform slicing is also important in freeze drying, like it is with dehydrating. Proper packaging and storage is also imperative for freeze drying to protect against moisture and prevent spoilage. Let's talk about the benefits of freeze drying. Freeze drying will preserve the nutritional value, will extend the shelf life if stored properly in airtight containers, will take up minimal space and weigh much less, and will rehydrate to much of the original texture, taste, and appearance, although this does take some practice. There are some disadvantages to freeze drying. Although they are compact machines and user-friendly, they are expensive. A popular brand called Harvest Right can cost thousands of dollars. Let's move on and compare certain dehydrated foods to freeze-dried foods. Apples are a good example. Dehydrated apple slices turn out crispy and leathery. On the other hand, freeze-dried apples retain their shape and size, but have a crispy, almost styrofoam-like texture. However, upon rehydration, freeze-dried apples regain an almost fresh-like texture, while dehydrated apples will never fully resemble a fresh slice. Both options are delicious and can be stored on the pantry shelf, but freeze-dried apples have a significantly longer shelf life of around 25 years. Herbs are another example. I use herbs pretty often, so I usually just stick with dehydrating, although freeze drying is an option if you set the temperatures on the freeze dryer to less than 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Freeze-dried herbs retain the bright green and vibrant colors. On the other hand, with dehydration, herbs appear dull and have significantly withered in size. Some herbs that lose significant flavor when dehydrated, like basil or cilantro, are amazingly close to their fresh counterparts when freeze-dried. Other herbs like thyme and rosemary have wonderful flavors with both methods. Meats are the first thought of most people when they think of dehydrating because this is how jerky is made. Raw meats are sliced thin and placed in the dehydrator on high temperatures and is cooked to a leathery snack. However, freeze-dried raw meat upon rehydration returns to its original fresh raw meat form. Both freeze-drying and dehydrating have their advantages and are wonderful tools for food preservation. While a dehydrator is more budget-friendly, a freeze dryer offers extended shelf life. Understanding the distinctions between these methods empowers you to make the most suitable choice for your homestead's needs and culinary preferences. Whichever way you decide to preserve food, both methods contribute to the self-sufficiency and abundance of our homestead pantry. Let us know in the comments below if you dehydrate or freeze dry and which is your preferred method. SHTF Survival Homestead Teaching Farm thanks you for watching this video. Please continue to help us help you by liking, sharing, and subscribing.